Hey man, most men think the more they do in a relationship, the more secure it will be. They believe that if they give more love, more time, more money, more attention, they'll earn loyalty. But here's the truth. No one wants to admit, in relationships, doing less often creates more impact than doing everything. Why? Because women don't respect effort that looks desperate. They don't value abundance that feels free. What they value, what they crave, what they respect is scarcity, discipline, and restraint. When you do less, you communicate that your time, your attention, and your love are not cheap commodities to be taken for granted. You force her to value them because she has to work for them. That hidden power of doing less is what separates the unforgettable men from the disposable ones. Doing less doesn't mean neglect. It doesn't mean treating her poorly, being cold, or ignoring her. It means not overextending yourself to prove your worth. It means you don't chase when she pulls away. You don't smother when she's distant. You don't try to fix every emotional storm she creates. Instead, you remain calm, steady, and reserved. And in that steadiness, she feels something that endless effort can never provide: respect. Because a man who does less but remains solid feels stronger than a man who does everything but crumbles. Restraint signals strength, while overgiving signals weakness. Think about it. When something is easily available, people stop valuing it. Water from the tap is taken for granted, but water in the desert is treasured. It's not the thing itself that changes, it's the scarcity that gives it weight. The same applies to your presence in a relationship. When you flood her with attention, she normalizes it. She expects it. But when you do less, when you give selectively, intentionally, sparingly, your attention becomes like water in the desert. Every compliment matters more. Every gesture feels heavier. Every moment with you becomes rare, and therefore valuable. Doing less magnifies the weight of what you do give. Women test men constantly, not because they're evil, but because they want to feel secure in their attraction. And most men fail those tests because they overreact, they give more, they chase harder, they talk endlessly, trying to prove themselves. But the man who does less doesn't flinch. He doesn't run around trying to meet every demand. He doesn't bend at every shift of her mood. He stands still, controlled and calm. That composure creates attraction because she realizes she cannot control him. The hidden power of doing less is that it removes you from her frame and keeps you firmly in your own. And that's the kind of man women never stop thinking about. Here's the part most men don't understand. Doing less makes her invest more. When you give endlessly, she doesn't have to give anything back. She sits in the receiver's seat, comfortable and lazy, while you exhaust yourself pouring energy into her. But when you do less, she feels the imbalance. She realizes she has to contribute if she wants your attention. She has to earn your validation instead of expecting it. She has to bring effort to match your restraint. And that's when the dynamic shifts. Because the moment she invests in you, she values you more. People always value what they invest in, and by doing less, you create the conditions where she invests more. Doing less also strips away the illusion of control she thinks she has. When you give too much, you become predictable. She knows you'll text first. She knows you'll apologize first. She knows you'll make up for her moods with extra effort. That predictability gives her power over you because she can anticipate your moves and manipulate the dynamic. But when you do less, when you withhold instead of flood, when you pause instead of react, you remove her ability to predict you. She doesn't know if you'll respond. She doesn't know what you're thinking. She doesn't know if she's secured her place in your mind. That unpredictability keeps her on edge, and paradoxically, keeps her more invested. Because mystery feeds attraction more than routine ever could. Doing less also protects you from burnout. Men who give endlessly in relationships end up drained, resentful, and empty. They pour so much of themselves into keeping her happy that they forget to keep themselves whole. And eventually, that imbalance destroys the relationship because no woman respects a man who loses himself to please her. But when you do less, when you conserve your energy, when you prioritize yourself, when you don't try to solve every problem, something shifts. You remain centered, you maintain your strength, and instead of resenting her, you remain balanced and in control. Women may not consciously say it, but they're drawn to men who maintain themselves even inside a relationship. Doing less isn't neglect, it's sustainability. It ensures you don't destroy yourself trying to keep her satisfied. There's another hidden truth. Doing less forces her to sit with her own emotions. When you rush to fix everything, you shield her from discomfort. She never has to reflect on her behavior, never has to deal with the consequences of her moods, never has to sit with the silence she created. But when you do less, when you stop rushing to repair, She has to feel the sting of her own actions. That sting teaches her far more than your words ever could. She learns that if she pushes too far, you won't come running. She learns that if she disrespects you, you won't smooth it over with affection. She learns that your love has boundaries, and boundaries enforced through doing less are what transform attraction into respect. Doing less also magnifies the power of your presence. When you're not constantly available, when you're not constantly giving, your time becomes valuable, and the less time you give, the more weight it carries. An hour with you becomes more powerful than a week with another man. A compliment from you feels heavier than 50 from someone else. A gesture of kindness feels priceless because it's not constant, it's rare. This is the paradox of doing less. You don't become distant, you become significant. Because significance isn't created by abundance, it's created by scarcity. And scarcity only happens when a man has the strength to withhold. And perhaps the most important hidden power of doing less is that it forces her to rise to your level. When you overgive, you sink to hers. You play into her frame. You let her dictate the rules. You lower yourself to constant proving. But when you do less, you pull her upward. She realizes she has to bring effort. She has to step into your frame. She has to match your standards. And whether she admits it or not, that challenge excites her. Because women don't admire men who bend. They admire men who make them stretch. Doing less isn't laziness, it's leadership. It's the subtle reminder that if she wants to keep you, she has to earn you every single day. Doing less creates long-term attraction because it prevents the cycle of neediness from ever taking root. Most men, when they feel a woman pulling away, panic. They chase harder, call more, text more, buy gifts, plead for reassurance. And in doing so, they smother her. They kill attraction by turning love into obligation. But the man who does less never falls into this trap. When she pulls away, he doesn't chase. He pulls back even further. When she grows cold, he stays calm and doesn't overinvest. That lack of panic keeps him attractive because it communicates abundance. It tells her that he doesn't need her for survival, that he won't lose his center if she withdraws. And that composure plants a seed of curiosity and desire that grows stronger with time. Doing less also reveals the truth about her intentions. When you give endlessly, you blur the line between genuine interest and opportunism. You can't tell if she's there for you or for what you provide. But when you do less, when you stop giving her everything without effort, her response reveals everything. If she leaves, she wasn't there for you anyway. If she stays, if she invests, if she doubles down, then you know her loyalty runs deeper. By doing less, you strip away the illusions and expose reality. You learn who she really is, not who she pretends to be, when the giving is endless. And this truth, though sometimes painful, protects you from wasting years on someone who never valued you. The hidden power of doing less is that it separates you from the masses. Most men operate from scarcity in the wrong way. They overgive because they're terrified of losing her. They believe that if they stop doing so much, she'll walk away. But ironically, it's the opposite that happens. Overgiving pushes her away, while restraint pulls her closer, because restraint communicates abundance. It says, I don't need to prove myself to you. I don't need to win you over. I am already enough as I am. That message is rare, and women never forget men who carry that rare energy. While other men blend together, the man who does less stands apart. Doing less doesn't weaken the relationship, it strengthens it. It builds a dynamic where your value is clear, your standards are set, and your boundaries are respected. It forces her to rise up, to match your energy, to contribute instead of only consume. This doesn't just build attraction, it builds balance. A relationship built on balance will always outlast one built on overgiving. Because when both partners invest, both partners respect the bond. But when one man gives endlessly, while the woman takes, resentment grows until the entire relationship collapses. By doing less, you prevent that collapse before it begins. And here's the ultimate truth. Doing less is not about her, it's about you. It's about valuing your time, your attention, and your energy enough to never hand it out cheaply. It's about setting a standard for yourself that says, I will not overextend just to keep someone in my life. I will not destroy myself to maintain someone else's comfort. I will not give endlessly to someone who hasn't earned it. That mindset makes you unbreakable, because when you know the power of restraint, you can never be manipulated again. You know that your strength isn't in chasing, but in standing still, and that steadiness is what makes women respect you, crave you, and remember you long after everyone else fades away. Doing less ignites pursuit in a way that constant effort never can. When a woman realizes that you're not going to chase her, not going to endlessly validate her, and not going to beg for her time. Something shifts inside her. Instead of sitting back comfortably while you do all the work, she feels compelled to move toward you. She texts first. She tries harder to get your attention. She looks for ways to impress you, to earn back the affection she once took for granted. This shift happens because doing less creates a vacuum, a space where your absence becomes noticeable. And nature hates a vacuum. If she values you, she'll rush to fill that space with her own effort. The power of doing less is also in how it reveals manipulation. Women who thrive on control and attention will always test you. They'll pull back, go cold, start arguments, or withhold affection just to see how you respond. The average man panics. He overcompensates, proving that he can be controlled. But the man who does less, he doesn't flinch. He doesn't beg for her warmth or chase her mood swings. He allows the silence, the coldness, the distance to sit, and in that stillness, she exposes herself. Because if her loyalty crumbles when you stop feeding her endless energy, then she was never loyal at all. Doing less uncovers the truth faster than any words ever could. Doing less also forces her to confront the fear of losing you. When you're always available, she never considers the possibility of your absence. She assumes you'll always be there, no matter how she treats you. But when you do less, when you step back and stop overextending, she feels the gap. She starts imagining what life would look like without you. And in that imagining, fear sets in. Fear of losing your attention, fear of losing your stability, fear of losing the man who doesn't bend to her every whim. That fear is not cruelty, it's clarity. It's the realization that your presence is not guaranteed, and that realization makes her hold tighter. Restraint also amplifies your emotional control. When you do less, you demonstrate mastery over yourself. You prove that you don't need to react, that you don't need to fight for validation, that you can remain calm in the face of her storms. This emotional control makes you magnetic, because it's rare. Most men collapse under emotional pressure. They argue, they plead, they chase. But the man who does less radiates strength. He shows that he's not moved by temporary moods or empty threats, and women deep down crave that kind of man. A man who does less but carries more strength. A man who holds his ground while others trip over themselves trying to win her back. Here's the paradox. The less you do, the more she feels. Doing less makes space for her emotions to work on her. She starts to miss you. She replays your words in her head. She wonders why you're not chasing like everyone else. That wondering builds tension, and that tension builds attraction. By doing less, you turn her mind against itself. You make her feel the weight of your absence. And in a world where women are used to men overextending, that absence is deafening. It forces her to see your value, not through what you give, but through what she feels when you withhold. That's the hidden genius of restraint. It speaks louder than 1,000 words ever could. Doing less also teaches her something that most men never have the courage to show. That love without respect means nothing. A woman can say she loves you, she can swear her loyalty, she can talk endlessly about her feelings, but if she doesn't respect you, none of it lasts. And respect is never born from desperation, it's born from discipline. When you do less, when you don't bend at every emotional demand, when you don't chase her approval like it's oxygen, you command respect. She sees that you value yourself enough to never be treated like an option. And in that moment, whether she admits it or not, she realizes she can't play the same games with you. She plays with other men. Because you're different. You've made yourself different by not giving endlessly. The hidden power of doing less also keeps your frame intact. In every relationship, there's a battle of frames, hers versus yours. Her frame is emotional, ever-changing, based on how she feels in the moment. Your frame is logical, steady, built on principles and standards. The man who does more than he should almost always collapses into her frame. He abandons his standards to appease her moods. But the man who does less stays rooted in his own. He doesn't explain every decision, he doesn't justify every action, he doesn't negotiate his value. He simply holds his ground, and when she tests him, as she inevitably will, he doesn't scramble, he remains calm. That calmness teaches her that his frame is stronger than hers, and that's when real attraction takes root. Another layer to this is that doing less exposes her patience. If she's only with you for the highs, for the attention, for the constant validation, she won't last when you slow down. She'll grow restless, she'll complain, she'll search for the next man who gives endlessly. But if she truly values you, if she's with you for who you are and not what you provide on demand, she'll stay. She'll match your pace. She'll learn to invest instead of only consume. Doing less forces the relationship to reveal its true foundation, whether it's built on shallow highs or genuine substance, and as painful as the truth might be, it's better to see it now than waste years on someone who never had the depth to stand by you. Doing less also creates a space where she has to wonder about you. When you do everything, when you text all day, when you fill every silence, there's no mystery left. She knows exactly where she stands, and the more she knows, the less she values. But when you do less, when you leave some texts unanswered, when you don't always explain yourself, when you're not always available, you create mystery. She wonders where you are, who you're with, why you're not responding, and that wondering keeps her hooked, because attraction isn't fueled by certainty, it's fueled by curiosity. Doing less keeps her curious, and curiosity keeps her invested. And finally, the greatest hidden power of doing less is that it builds a life where you're no longer dependent on her. When you stop pouring every ounce of energy into pleasing her, you redirect that energy back into yourself, into your purpose, your goals, your growth. You stop living for her validation and start living for your vision. And ironically, that shift makes you more attractive than anything else. Because a man who is consumed by his mission, who doesn't crumble when a woman withdraws, who knows how to give sparingly and intentionally, is a man who women never forget. Doing less doesn't just change the relationship, it changes you. It turns you into a man who doesn't beg for love, but commands it. And that kind of man never loses, because he knows his value doesn't come from how much he gives, it comes from how firmly he stands.